Welcome to Vedic Wisdom Insights. Glory to my Guru Swami Mukundananda and Sri Krishna. I touch their feet to bless me and everybody. Welcome to Sri Ishopanishad series. In the last lecture, we understood from verse 1 that Lord is the proprietor of everything and living and non-living things belong to Him. Today we will discuss about karma, types of karma and how does law of karma work. Let's start with verse 2. Kurvana evaha karmani jiji vise chatam samaha evam tyavi nanya tetosti na karma lipyate nare. Translation: one may wish to live for hundreds of years if he consistently goes on working in that way, for that sort of work will not bind him to the law of karma. There is no alternative to this way for man. No one wants to die, everyone wants to live as long as he can drag on. This phenomenon is clearly observed not only at an individual level but also collectively in the community, society and nation. There is a hard struggle for life by all kinds of living entities. And the Vedas say that this is quite natural. The living being is eternal by nature, but due to his bondage in material existence, he has to change his body over and over. This process is called the transmigration of the soul or karma bandhan, bondage by one's work. The living entity has to work for his livelihood because that is a law of material nature. And if he does not act according to his prescribed duties, if he becomes lazy, he becomes procrastination, then he transgresses the law of nature and binds himself more and more to the cycle of birth and death in the many species of life. Other life forms are also subject to the cycle of birth and death. But when the living entity attains a human life, he gets a chance to free from the chains of karma. The Gita explains the three concepts very clearly, which we should thoroughly understand and contemplate on it. Many people have a myth and incorrect beliefs on karma. Let's understand it well so we don't have a confusion and we are very clear on this. The first is karma, the actions and any activities that we perform with dharma and as per our prescribed duties. Akarma, the actions that free one from the cycle of birth and death. And finally it's vikarma, the actions that are performed in ignorance and deliberately doing the sin and that take us to the lower life forms. Of these three types of action, that which frees one from the bondage to karma is preferred by intelligent men. Ordinary men wish to perform good work in order to be recognized and achieve some higher status of life in this world or in heaven. But spiritually enlightened person or those decided to live a great life want to be free altogether from the actions and reactions of work. Intelligent men well know that both good and bad work equally bind one to the material miseries. Consequently, they seek that work which will free them from the reactions of both good and bad work. Here Srila Prabhupada has beautifully given his views on akarma as well. In the Bhagavad Gita chapter 3, 9th verse to 16th verse, the personality of Godhead says that one cannot attain the state of Naishkarmaya or akarma without executing the prescribed duties mentioned in the Vedic literature. This literature can regulate the working energy of a human being in such a way that he can gradually realize the authority of the Supreme Being. When he realizes the authority of the personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, it is to be understood that he has attained the stage of positive knowledge. In this purified stage, the modes of nature, namely goodness, passion and ignorance, cannot act and is able to work on the basis of Naishkarmaya. Such work does not bind one to the cycle of birth and death. In fact, God doesn't want anything from us. He wants the pure and selfless love from us. We do our devotional service constantly and always keeping Him in our mind. However, in the lower stages of life, one cannot immediately adopt the activities of devotional service, nor can one completely stop fruitive work. The goal of 99% people is to gratify their senses because of their excessive attachment in the material world. They are engrossed in bhoga that they don't realize they are part of God and their duty is to render devotional service to Lord Krishna. My Guru Swami Mukundananda, in his Bhagavad Gita commentary, in the verse chapter 240, he says, the great danger we face is that we may not get the human form in the next life and instead go into the lower species of life, such as animals, birds, the nether regions, etc. We cannot be complacent that the human form will remain reserved for us, for the next birth will be determined by our karmas and level of consciousness in this life. I remember in most of his lectures, he always said, we are human beings, and how can we justify our life with other species if we carry the same activity performed by them? He said again and again, utilizing our intellect in getting the right knowledge and working on our goal of God realization. Even Srila Prabhupada said, a humble God-centered life is more valuable than a colossal hoax of a life dedicated to godless altruism or socialism. When altruistic activities are executed in the spirit of Sri Ishopanishad, they become a form of karma yoga. Such activities are recommended in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, 5th verse to 9th verse. For they guarantee their executor protection from the danger of sliding down into the evolutionary process of birth and death. Even though such God-centered activities may be half finished, they are still good for the executor because they will guarantee him a human form in his next birth. In this way, one can have another chance to improve his position on the path of liberation. In the next lecture, we will understand the most important point about the importance and value of human life. Why is it considered the most precious one, and how we can use it to being good and great for good. Till then, Radhe Krishna.